Alrighty. Excellent. Welcome everyone to our 13th class, our penultimate class, second last class of the semester. And actually, I am seeing in person more students than I thought because this is a busy time of the year for all of you. And I know that you have a lot of work to do. So incredibly, we don't see Maite, even Maite online, which means it's very busy. And Maite, you probably will watch the recording, and so you are missed as always. But I look forward to your final assignment. I look forward to all of your final assignments, actually, and that's what we're really going to drill down on today. But we have some other things to discuss as well. I did post a talk for you to watch. It was important that you did. I hope that some of you familiarized yourself with a little bit of it or all of it because it really explains the 20th century in detail. So I will wait until I ask for a show of hands to see who had time to check in with it. If not, I will have to review some things with you about that. But more importantly today is really to make sure that you are going to nail this final reflection that's coming next week. It's due Friday, December the 15th. So in 1 week. And I want to go through the assignment sheet with you to make sure you understand that this is a different beast than your 5 reflections so far. All of those 5 reflections that you've been doing are in preparation for the main event now, and it's coming, and it's worth 30% of your final grade. So it's very important that you get going on it soon. Otherwise, you might not do so well in the course in terms of the final grade. So I want to get to that. And let me just see who is all with us right now. And of course, we have Hamil, we have Ben, we have Richie Awiti, right? Richie, who is joining us for the first time. And it's great to see you in person for this class. And I can tell you that Richie has been doing some good work with his reflections. And so, Richie, if you feel that you would like to participate or speak, you can. You don't have to, okay? But I think probably your insights would be welcomed. And of course, we have Trevor and we have Ariana. And we also have online Julian and Victor. So that's great. And then there are all the other students, something like there's 101 or 102 students registered in just this course. So a lot of you are watching the recordings and doing some good reflections. I've handed out a few tens, for the reflections, for reflection 4 and 3. But I'm very behind with the marking, and I apologize for this. It's just the nature of this growing thing here in the classroom, and I need some more help from the college. But I did meet with the president last week, and I'm going to get that. So this is good. At any rate, the marking is all being done now. If you haven't received a mark yet for your 4th reflection or your 5th, which was due last Friday, it's because I'm behind. I do want to spend some time today also giving you some feedback, general feedback on the reflections that I've seen so far. So please make sure you're listening now and understand that I have not, because of the volume of students I have now, been able to give individual feedback to everybody. I am giving it to the students who really, really need it. And I'm making sure they get tutors and I help them and we have phone calls and meetings. But I can't do that for everybody. And so I've been making a little list of general points that I'm seeing in some of the reflections, and I will tell you now, essentially. So if you've been receiving, 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 fairly routinely on your reflections, then keep doing what you're doing. And if you received a 9 out of 10, probably it's because your writing mechanics just needs to be tweaked a little bit. It's a bit sloppy. or perhaps there was just not enough content in there from the class. You weren't integrating the course material just enough, but you're doing well. If you receive 10 out of 10, just keep doing what you're doing. Okay, I don't need to tell you anything more. But if you start to receive less, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and even a 0, and I've handed out quite a few, here's what I'm about to tell you. Okay, and so please, particularly for the students watching the recordings, please listen. A 0 means what you probably already know, which is you didn't hand in the assignment. Okay, so that's number one. Here comes the really bad news. A 0 can also mean that I'm smelling AI. Now, AI, as you know, is an incredible force we have at our disposal now. And if you've learned anything about the human story we've been exploring this semester, I hope you have seen that there is something in the story of humanity in terms of the beginnings of civilization driven by food production, as we saw, that makes humans love productivity and efficiency. So artificial intelligence is just another tool to make us humans more productive and more efficient. That's it. And it's great if you know how to use it to free you up from doing all the mundane stuff in life, because that's what we like to do. We develop tools. But if you start using these tools to do your thinking for you, life is going to beat you up so badly, you're not going to get anywhere. Do you hear me? Okay, I'm speaking to everybody now, and I hope my words get through the camera to all the students watching the recording. If you rely on technology to do the thinking for you, life will beat you up and you will fail. Period. Full stop. So that's why you got a 0. And I think you will know that, you students who are doing that, who are handing in things that are so well written that refer to nothing that we've done in the class. In other words, you're getting all the information from AI, and I'm going, yeah, this is a great reflection on history and the topic, but where's the class material here? Please, if you're panicking and you are just so overwhelmed with work and all your courses, and you think at the end that this course you're taking with me is sort of insignificant, and you can just cut and paste your way through this and AI your way through this, you've missed the point of why you signed up for this course. It's not just about history. It's about critical thinking. It's about seeing that humans represent on planet Earth the very best and maybe the very worst critical thinking and creative intelligence. And so I'm hoping that I'm helping you to think better and more deeply in this course. Now, the good news. If you feel that you need to talk to me, reach out. Just shoot me an email and say, I'd like to know why I received this grade. But do not panic in the last minute and just hand in some piece of 4-letter word to me that I know is coming from a bot and not from you. Okay. So I got to get that off my chest. I can say that of the students who are in person right now, none of you have been doing that. I can see with Ariana, Trevor, Richie for sure, Ben, Hamil, and a student back there as well. You know, the students who generally come in person seem to have a little more motivation, which is good. If you haven't been handing in reflections at all because you've just been so busy, please email me as soon as you can, and I will try to help you pass the course. Okay? I'm going to stop. Maite has joined us. Lovely. Okay, Maite, I was worried you weren't going to be in the class, and I said, where is Maite? So she's here. I can see her now. and I will bring that up, actually. Let's come into the class for a moment, and you will see Maite there and everybody else. I guess we'll have everything over here for now. And actually, I'm just going to turn it around. So we'll go over here. Yeah, great. Okay. Is there anything anybody would like to say before we start going on the main part of the class? And I can always have a great Friday afternoon interacting with all of you, because this is truly something I love to do, is sit with you, stand with you, and learn about the human story together. I'd like to tell you something too that's been coming up in the reflections in terms of some more feedback for all of you. You know, quite a few students have been saying in the reflections that they like watching the interaction among us, which is great to hear, because that's what I hoped you would do. Like the watching of it, not even just the participating. So I know that a lot of people can't come to the class. That's why it's so flexible. But students who are just watching the reporting kind of get it, that this is a bit of a TV program, a podcast. You know, you watch it, you learn from all these people interacting. I'm guiding you. We have good debates. We sometimes fight. And I respect all of your minds. And then the students who are watching the recording go, yeah, I'm learning from what Ariana said. And I like what Maite is saying. And, you know, maybe I'll come to the class and join the fray. So that interaction is really important, but I'm never going to force it. But I'm really glad that students are saying in the reflections that they're noticing that, because I work hard. Yes, go ahead. Who's that? Anybody online? Oh, just a second. Can you hear? Hi, Yasmin, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear.
Great, okay. There's another student, Yasmin. I'd love to meet her at some point. She's been writing some very good reflections, and all the students who come in person or are there online live, they're tending to do some very good work. But I am also surprised by some of the good reflections from people I never will meet. So it's all good in that respect. But am I missing anything right now? Is there anything that you would like to bring to our attention before I start to look more closely today at the idea of your final reflection and what I think it could be? And then if there's time, we will jump into some of the content in terms of the rest of the 20th century. But I would rather you watch that recorded lecture, because there's a lot there. And so let's see. Good. Ariana, Trevor, Richie, Ben, everybody good? Anything you wanted? Okay. Yasmin, Maite, Chantel, Victor, Julian, anything that any of you would like to bring to the class's attention? Anything on your mind?
Last week you mentioned something about Hat Repair Day, and I don't think you explained it.
Say that again. Which day?
Hat Repair Day or something last week when you were.
Oh, yeah. You know, that was you asked what? No, it's the the Repair Cafe.
Oh,
actually, which is even more than I think you heard most of it, but not maybe all of it, or maybe it just got jumbled in the audio, Yasmin. I can actually show you a little bit about this. Do you remember when I talked about the Repair Cafe at all? Well, let me show you something, because Yasmin, I'm glad you asked, because actually the topic of today's class is officially called the force of evolution. And it's usually what I talk about at the end of the story. So the end of the story, at least in the very brief story I've told this semester, is the story of humanity. And the final part is the 20th century part 2, which I posted as a recorded talk. And so if everything was going really well today, then everybody would have watched that talk, and then I could start to talk about evolution and what's coming. What do we see ahead in the next, hundreds of years in the third millennium? I'm still going to talk about that, but actually evolution very much connects to the Repair Cafe. I'll explain in a moment. So why don't I go to the website of Repair Cafe and try to explain a little bit more about this project that I've been involved with my wife and some others that we've created. And I would like you to see this because you go to Repair Cafe Toronto, and then I'm gonna share this. Oh, no, that's not the one. Here we are. Repair Cafe Toronto. And I'm going to share this with the online viewers. Come on in, Ryan, or the online classmates. Just give me a moment, and then we can all talk about it and talk about exactly the same thing. At last, I did. Thanks. Start screen sharing, go to Repair Cafe. Good. So Yasmin, what do you see right now on your screen?
I see the usual view, the 3 TVs, and then join the next event.
Okay, so Repair Cafe. Go
Yeah.
to you see Repair Cafe's website, right? Full screen.
To the very right, yes.
Okay. Do you see it full screen for you
No.
instead of? Okay, hold on a second. Stop sharing. So you should. I just want to make sure. If not, then I'll just leave it on the big board. But I can actually increase the size for you. So share. Okay, so Julian, what do you see right now in front of you on full screen?
I see the full screen of the Repair Cafe.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, good, good. So it's working. Okay, and then here I'll make it full screen here. Yeah, nice. Okay, so everybody, excellent. Why are we talking about the Repair Cafe in Short History of the World? Well, number one, I always answer all of your questions. So Yasmin asked something about the Hat Cafe, and I need to explain more of this because I think it also speaks to this idea of the force of evolution. I am proud to be part of an organization that I've helped to build with my wife and others called Repair Cafe Toronto. And that is for the last 10 to 12 years in Toronto, we've been building up this group of volunteer fixers, people who love to fix things, whether it's appliances, computers, bicycles, you name any household appliance. And these fixers come together at an event weekly, whether it's in a community center, a church, a library, and they fix things. And the people who want things fixed bring them in and they sit with the fixers and they have a cup of coffee, maybe a pastry, and they learn how to fix that thing with the person who loves to fix things. Now, this movement, Repair Cafe, began about 15 or 20 years ago in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and my wife, Waiju, who comes from Hong Kong and was very involved in education and very innovative, and lucky to have met her. We love this organization. Yes. Yes, she's from Hong Kong. I've spent quite a bit of time in Hong Kong. And it's an amazing city. It's like New York, but it's kind of dying because the Chinese Communist government is all over it now and is wrecking it. But I'm not going to get into the Chinese government, the central communist government and authoritarianism, and because you probably know already how much I personally, I don't want to get, I dislike any governments that put a thumb to your forehead and control you. I don't like that. Yeah, and and all governments have a tendency to do that, but I love the free mind, free thinking, and the creative mind, all of that. So, Yasmin, the Repair Cafe is a place where I've said many times, because we've been interviewed, it's been covered in the media quite extensively on the newspapers, CBC, and I've often talked about the best of humanity is there, and it really is. You walk in on a Saturday morning, whether it's a community center or library or wherever, and you see all these maybe 15 or 20 fixers. People love to fix things, and they're sitting there, and there's like a lineup of people bringing their computers, toasters, lamps. Any sentimental object they have that's been broken, and they sit with the fixer, and they learn how to fix stuff, and it's like no place you've been to. It's just beautiful spirit, and you're all welcome to come to a Repair Cafe anytime. If you want to start one up in Oshawa, we will help you. But the movement started, Yasmin, many years ago in the Netherlands. The Repair Cafe movement. And then people have been starting up their own national or local repair cafes around the world. And I think there's something like 1,500 of them around the world now in different countries. The Netherlands, by the way, is a very interesting place. I noticed, just FYI, that Durham College is now offering a Gen Ed elective credit for their student abroad program, I believe. And you could study in the Netherlands and get a credit. You may want to look into that. Yeah, so I just saw it. Ryan, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's something else I want to talk about today. Is I have something to tell you about Japan as well. I'm glad you mentioned that. It's here in my notes. But so Yasmin, it's people. There are jewelers. There are people who fix clothes. People who do hats. They're amazing people there. And anyways, here's the website. And if you'd like to know more about it, just shoot me an email. Okay, Yasmin?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I had a question for you about this is maybe not related to the class, but like your global leader class.
Yes.
You wanted to, like, just mention maybe a bit about what that's about.
Sure.
I took it for next semester, so.
Well, as always, our interaction is starting, and it's great, and I will answer that question. Come on in, Azam. Yep, grab your seat. Ryan has asked about another class that I teach here. So you may see other Gen Ed electives offered for you next semester. And you should know that I teach, of course, short history of the world. I teach global leader, and I teach humanities destiny. So there's 3 Gen Ed electives that I teach here. And perhaps I'll see you in another one. Essentially, what I teach here, and I think you already know, but I'll just repeat it. Let me just bring back this, so I'll stop sharing for you guys online, because I can see it's there. And hold on.
Show me the message again.
Good. Okay, so we're back. Great. Ajoy is with us today from Bangladesh. Great. Okay, well then.
Hello.
Hi, Ajoy. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, nice to see you.
Ajoy, could you just do me a favor, since the students here have probably never met you before, and it's actually a great connection, because one of the students has just asked about the Global Leader course. Can you tell me a little bit about your sort of background with the global class? And I'll just point out to everybody, Ajoy is in Dhaka right now in Bangladesh, and I'll let him explain where it is. I will only say that Ajoy has been a wonderful classmate and partner in the building of this whole idea of the global class that we will be presenting in 2025 in Japan at the World Expo. So that's something else I want to tell you about. And he's very much a kind of model global thinker and citizen who has gone to a good university in Dhaka in Bangladesh called the Daffodil International University. And he's had a lot to provide and give us in the global class. So Ajoy, why don't you tell the students a little bit more about where you are, what time it is right now, and if you can share your camera, great, but you don't have to, okay?
Well, hello everyone. Good morning from your place and good evening from my place. Here is almost 11:40 p.m. So, well, my name is Ajoy. I'm a graduate student here, and I'm applying for master's degree in several universities and several programs, including the European Union, Commonwealth, and Stanford as well. So I have been working with Global Class since last 4 years, especially in the time of pandemic. I was in Communication University of China in Beijing. I did my fellowship under the United Nations Education Council, and my topic was the international communication, social media analysis, and the cross-cultural communication. So I successfully finished the program, and then I back again Dhaka to finish my bachelor. In the meantime, I was involving with the lead coordinator in the Global Class team. We have arranged significant courses, workshops, collaboration with the Canadian and abroad connection from different think tanks, different stakeholders, development, non-government organizations. Now we are looking for to do something more dynamic. So especially our one of the signature program is the Education for Crisis Region, and the global guardians, one of the, and so we are trying to fulfilling the sustainable goals in 4, the quality education, SDG 4 and SDG 7. So hopefully you guys enjoy, and we are trying to do more in future. Yep.
Okay. That's great, Joy, and stay for as long as you can today. I know it's late, you know, it's very late there if you have to go to bed, and you know, it's, what time is it exactly now in Dhaka?
11:40 p.m.
Yeah, okay. So it's late. Actually, it's by way of helping Ryan to understand what global leader is, and I would like to answer his question. So let me just make sure that everybody is good with this. The most important thing is that when we come in here, we have 90 minutes of really good learning and interaction. But if this boat that we're on, that we're paddling together, we decide we're going to go down that creek for a while, we're going to go there if a student wants to go there. And then we're going to come back to the river. And then we'll end up at the island where we want to be in the end. It's the longer the larger the larger the island of something, the longer the shoreline of wonder. The larger the island you're going to, the longer the shoreline of wonder, or something. So we're always going somewhere at the end of the class that is an important place of learning that maybe will increase your sense of wonder about the human story, but we never know exactly what route we're going to take. Okay? So let me just check in with everybody. Maite, are you there?
I'm currently working, but I can listen.
Okay, so is there anything you want to say in terms of where we're going to go? Because I know sometimes you like to, you know, tell us a little bit about where you think we should be going instead of where I would like to go, and I'm fine with that. So is there anything you would like to say?
Yes, I would like to say that you said you want everybody to have a critical mind and express their opinion. But if they don't know, what critical mind are we talking about and what opinion are we talking about? We haven't seen any of the roots of any civilization. We have been jumping from subject to subject, but never really have the context and why that happened and when that happened, and I can go on and on and on. Okay, we didn't really study Egypt or Mesopotamia or Greece or Rome or the medieval times or the Renaissance of illustration or French Revolution. So I can go on and on, and we didn't see feudalism, liberalism, revolution, industrial revolution, capitalism, socialism, communism. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of opinion my classmates will have because they don't know. They don't know about any of those.
Okay.
So I love the position when everybody is like, the human is gonna be positive and we're gonna make it and we're gonna go to the stars and it's all like very Disneyland, Disney Canada. But the fact, the history is not. Historically, we are a place for the planet. Okay, I saw the last lesson that you were talking about totalitarian movements and governments and people like Mao Zedong, like Hitler, like Mussolini, like Putin, and Netanyahu. What happened? And Biden, what happened? We didn't touch that. You don't like
I have to stop you.
governments.
Maite, listen to me. I have to stop you now. Point.
Okay.
Good
You want
point.
my opinion. You want my opinion. That's my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. And this is good. I highly encourage this. So I just want to make sure that everybody is clear that there's a lot Maite said that is helpful, in which she feels we did not go deeply enough with. And she mentioned many turning points in the story of human civilization and story of our developing freedoms, and of course in the 20th century with the rise of what's called totalitarianism. And so I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to understand that when we are doing a story about the planet-wide view of the human adventure on Earth, that's what we have been exploring this semester, the human adventure on Earth, the story of humanity. I'm afraid that it's a little bit selective. I have to select important things that we discuss, and there are things I'm going to invariably miss because I can't do everything in this class. But there are critical things that you need to understand, and all of those things that Maite has mentioned, I have touched on either in the recorded talks or in the discussions, but there are times when we haven't been able to go deeply enough with them, and I agree. So there may be things that you want to bring to my attention, but there is a very big story here, and I ask Maite to now listen to me for a moment, okay, Maite? You must have an open mind. And you of all are the smartest with the most knowledge, but there's something that has not been clear in the comments you've made, and I've seen it beautifully stated on the front of your computer. It says, I save myself. Is that correct, Maite, that on the front of your computer you have a little sticker that says, I save myself? Yes or no?
Used to say, and it was related to the situation about feminism. Like
Okay.
all the times
Maite,
women
Maite,
were waiting for the
Maite,
guy to say them.
Answer my question. Answer my question.
Yeah,
Yes or
okay.
no? Do you
Yes.
have a sticker? Yeah. Okay.
Used to. Now I have a baby on a whatever.
Okay. I say this with all respect, and I want her to listen, because I have enormous respect for Maite as an individual in the way she goes about her life. She's fearless. She understands a lot, but I don't think that her mind has changed in any way since the beginning of this class. I think from the beginning of this class, she had a dark and pessimistic view of human nature, and I think it's only been confirmed by what we've done in this class. In other words, her mind is not as open as she thinks. And the reason I'm going to just say this to all of you is because I'm concerned that she has missed a critical narrative. And that was in her sticker, I Save Myself, which is that there is a story that can be extracted from all of the things that have been going on in human civilization over the last 10,000 years. And that is the story of the human being becoming more free against all odds. And that freedom, on which we need to be educated constantly, is a fragile thing, but it's what humans want, and we continue to fight for it. And there are governments that try to hold us back from being more free, but she has missed the critical narrative. And she has given me a whole bunch of events that are all part of the standard world history narrative. I know them well, but she has not been open enough to the idea that we, in spite of all odds, are becoming more free and more educated. And I will prove it to you today with some very interesting research and information. Now, Maite, I'm giving some harsh criticism, and I wish you were here, but I want you to respond to this, and I'll let the others too. Please go ahead.
What is your question?
Well, I'm not asking you a question. I'm just asking you to respond to what I just said.
To the critical mind. Okay.
No, Maite, you're not listening. You're not listening.
Okay.
I'm asking you to respond to what I just said. But it's okay.
No. I listened what you said. I just didn't understand what you want me to answer. But you're telling me that people is more free. We have more freedom now.
Yes.
But and you want us to believe that. But it's not really for the first, you have to define what is freedom, because what is freedom for me, it might not be freedom for you, or for Hamed, or for Gorovit, or for Ryan, or for anybody else who's in there. What is freedom for Canada is not freedom for Latin America, or for Africa, or for India. So you need to put markers from where to where do you call freedom. Next, you are speaking as human rights were for everybody, and they are in theory, but in fact, they are not. Okay? And you have the history to prove that, and you have news nowadays to prove that again. You talk about democracy as is the right of choose our leaders, and also democracy is these leaders represent the people and their interests. And we are just seeing right now how the European Union is voting for the genocide in Palestine, and the people is craving to stop the ceasefire, and the Union European is not listening, not the Parliament in British, not the Congress in the United States, not everybody. So what is democracy there? Where is it? How is it happening?
Okay. I put the question, Maite, I put the question on the board. It's a great question, and I want give Ryan a chance to answer.
Are we going to be free?
Okay.
That's not material to dream.
Okay, fair enough. I want to make sure I also address the global leader and Ryan's questions and others. But I also, Maite, listen, I also, hold on. There is a video I want to show you today that has some excellent research that will, I think, help you to understand that when you take a broader view of the human story on planet Earth, something is happening in the human story that is good.
And what?
Also, I want to apologize to Maite, because sometimes when I say things, and I'm harshly critical, English is not her first language, and she may not understand everything I've said. So I highly, again, respect the way she comes in and she's telling us what she thinks, but this is not her first language, and her Spanish is much, much better than mine because she comes from the Spanish-speaking world and I don't. So let's stop for a second and just make sure we stay on track.
Mhm.
There is a question that she has asked, I think, which is, are we really more free at the end of this? And there's another question that I want to also have you think about today. For all that we know, what have we learned? I said at the beginning of this semester, I hope I did, I'm pretty sure I did, and if I didn't, I apologize, that Jacob Bronowski, one of our great world historians of the 20th century, who wrote the book The Ascent of Man, he was a scientist, he was a philosopher, he also hosted one of the first ever documentary series that a scientist did to popularize science called The Ascent of Man in the early 1970s. The producer of that series then produced Carl Sagan's classic, Cosmos, and then Cosmos inspired Neil deGrasse Tyson. And any of you who know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is will know that, what's that? It's a remake of Carl Sagan's great show called Cosmos. Well, the producer of Cosmos was a British producer, and his first series in which he had a scientist speak and popularize science was The Ascent of Man, Jacob Bronowski. It's one of the great classic television series of all time. And Jacob Bronowski said in the late 1960s, when we humans were just beginning to deal with this idea that we could see the planet as one whole thing. It's called the overview effect. We went to space. Yes, we went to space because there was a Cold War and the Americans and the Russians were fighting and a lot of people died and there was a lot of conflict. But something happened beyond that. That conflict produced space exploration in a way we'd never seen it, and it also produced human beings standing on the planet or going around the moon, and it produced a picture of the Earth that proved that we live on a single planet. And Jacob Bronowski understood that, and he said, now that we live in this time of a growing planetary consciousness, it's starting now, he said, the coming of the new mind. That's what he said. There is a new mind coming for humanity, but it'll be very slow because a lot of humans will resist this. But what he said is, knowledge is our destiny. Knowledge is the human destiny. And so I ask you, for all that we know now about our story this semester, for all that Maite knows, and she knows a lot, and she has been a terrific classmate to have this semester, and I will miss her very much. For all that we know, what have we learned? I would like that to sit with you for a little bit right now, because it's a very important question. And it's something that you will have to ask yourself in your own life, too, as you get smarter and you think you understand, you have a lot of knowledge. Are you really learning how to be as a human with other humans on this planet? Do you know how to interact with human beings who are different than you? Maite mentioned a very important ideology. I haven't had time, she's right, to go into this in detail because of the way the course was set up this semester, and I realize you would not all be able to watch the recorded talks, and there's a lot of things I couldn't do, but she mentions capitalism. There is a force in our lives today. And no matter where you go in the world right now, whether it's Africa, whether it's Asia, whether it's the Holy Land, whether it's up in, Iceland or Reykjavik, or down in Mexico City, Lima, Peru, or Caracas, Venezuela. The system that we live by today is capitalistic. It's a capitalist system. It is the pursuit of profit and money for success. And that's a problem. And so I'm going to conclude this by saying the force of evolution is something I really hope you're going to start thinking more and more about as you move towards your final assignment, your final reflection. Things change on this planet. What I tried to show you this semester in taking this planet-wide view is for you to help you to understand that in nature, of which we are a part, although we're beginning to change nature in ways we never anticipated. Climate change is just the tip of the iceberg, guys. Think about gender, think about medical science, think about weapons of mass destruction, and think about the coming singularity and androids and robots and artificial intelligence. In nature, things change. I hope you've seen that this semester. It's natural for things to change on this planet. I had a student write in a reflection, there is always one, every semester, sometimes more, who was offended by the approach that I've taken and what he thought was my disrespect for religion. I understand that. I'm not going to name that student in any way. He will be watching the recording. But I will ask that student, in the same way that I have asked Maite, are you really being open-minded to everything that is out there in the world? Or have you just decided that the ideas that you have are the right ones, and everything everybody says is against you somehow? Or everybody doesn't know as much as you do somehow. And therefore, you have been insulted by the approach I've taken. I hugely respect religion. I hope you've seen, maybe I haven't been able to go deeply enough with you on this, that it was the religious prophets who were our first free thinkers. Truly, Abraham, the prophet Muhammad, Jesus, Hindu prophets, Buddhists, Prince Siddhartha Gautama, David, yes. Do you want, just so they can, because your contributions are important, Go ahead.
So I think the main problem was just that you didn't have time to elaborate on each concept because we had roughly 2 hours per week of class.
Yes.
So it wouldn't be fair to judge your approach based just on 2 hours of class. It's just like a slight impression that we could interpret from those 2 hours. And well, at least I didn't come every class because I had other stuff to do. So it would be even less fair for me to judge you just based on 2 hours of class. I think it was fun. I think it was a pretty global, if we can use that word. Like, I think it was a pretty global approach because we have people from everywhere in the world with really different views and really different cultural backgrounds, socioeconomical backgrounds. And I think you had to stay neutral. So I think it was fine.
Well, let me show you. I think it's time to show you the video because I want to make sure you understood something really important. Yes, there was much more that could have been done. Okay, let's go to Ryan. Because I want to demonstrate to all of you that there is a critical story here, a narrative, and I want to make sure you understood. Let's first go to Ryan, then we'll go to Ariana, and this is excellent. And then Richie.
I just wanted to ask you about the global leader class again, but maybe don't take too long. Just like 3 sentences, short sentences.
You know what? Because I want to stay on history, I'm going to put this down, Ryan, and I'm going to come back to this.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to make sure because this is right bang on topic, and I will make sure I address it. Okay. Thanks. So next, Ariana, go ahead.
I think I've come for most of the classes, but I'm not 100% sure. However, I do find your approach very good. I think at times, yes, you don't have enough time to elaborate, and you do come off as not very PC, like politically correct. However, that I never found any of your classes to be too offensive to the point where I felt like my beliefs were compromised, or I don't think it was ever a critical thing like that. But yes,
Well, you know,
what's his name?
I'll go to Richie. Let's make this discussion about the ideas and not about me, okay? Because there's very important things. But I appreciate what you're saying. I just want to make sure we're on topic here because we are talking about evolution. I want to make sure I show you the video, and also I need to find out a little bit more about who actually watched the recorded talk that I asked you to watch. But anyways, maybe I won't ask because I'll probably know the answer. Okay, so thanks, Ariana. Richie, let's get the microphone, and here you go. And again, thank you for coming and joining us today. Go ahead.
Thanks. So I just wanted to add a little bit about the topics of religion, and I don't feel that you've been offensive to anyone's religion this whole semester. I just wanted to say that some people are they're prepared to defend their religion,
Yes.
like that's very okay, but they're not ready to talk about the limitations of their religions,
Hmm.
because because all religions are not perfect. you know um Something I've learned about my religion. I'm a Christian Catholic. I know there are limitations to how Catholicism has, like, viewed the world in
Yes.
the past and present. So I feel like you haven't been offensive in that respect. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Richie. And for the student who wrote that, about, maybe I'm reacting too harshly. I'm not sure you were offended so much, but listen to what Richie said because I think that's profound. It's often been said that one of the fundamental differences between the democratic and open mind and the religious mind, and both can coexist, by the way, but if you want to choose, in a freer mind, it's prepared to self correct, it's prepared to admit mistakes and correct. I haven't met personally a very religious person who's prepared to correct their religion. That concerns me. And I say that to the student who wrote that. If you see something wrong with your belief system, are you prepared to challenge it and change it? Or will you just accept the mistakes as something God intended? Richie is saying, I think you've been there and you realized I want to be able to correct what I see. Is that?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Thank you, Richie. That's an excellent, excellent point. And I want to make sure that gets up on the big board, okay? Because one of the things that the two greatest intellectual forces in our story, the human story, are science and religion. Right? These are forces. Richie, Awiti, was religious? Are you still religious?
Yeah, I would say I'm religious.
Is religious.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
But he wants to be able to freely correct mistakes. And that might be a problem with our religions, is it won't allow us to correct what's there. But this newer way of thinking, in which we are more free to choose, allows us to do that, more or less, provided we're living in a country or a system that supports that way of thinking. And Maite is right when she has said there are a lot of governments around the world that are repressive and corrupt, and they don't allow you to be free. And that's why there's so many poor people in the world. Something like 1 billion of the 8 billion on this planet who don't have enough to eat every day. So there's
Lord,
a problem. Let Ryan speak, and then we'll come to you, Maite, and then I'm going to show you the video. Ryan, go ahead.
I was just gonna build on that idea that Richie was just mentioned, that you know, I really feel that religion is something that is very productive, but I feel like the base kind of concept of it is that it puts you in a box of your thinking, and usually it's meant to be in a productive way, like, you know, let's stay away from doing these negative or detrimental habits that do not align with serving the best good of humanity or whatever. That's at least what it's supposed to be intended to do. But, you know, there's some people who kind of, you know, say, oh, since it's written in the book, it must be like the word of God, and don't think to question that for themselves. And that, I really feel like, becomes a detrimental aspect to that, because, you know, you're basically giving up your consciousness as a free thinker to say, let me outsource it to a book because I don't want to question God or whatever. But, you know, most of those religions teach us that, you know, God made us in the image of him. So to question God is to question ourselves. So we must be willing to do that in order to grow as human beings and conscious beings on this planet. So I feel like it's really important to learn from the past, but also question whether, you know, it was accurate, and you know, take what is, and the rest is you know, maybe not relative to your experience.
Well, I'm just going to write this because I
Irrelevant.
think Ryan has just said, I don't want to outsource my mind to a book.
okay? Now
Just a second. Okay, hold on a second.
I'm working. I'm in the bathroom.
Yeah,
So
I know.
I need to tell you that fast.
Okay, Maite, did you just listen to what Ryan said?
Yes, I did.
What did he say?
I said that is bias, partially good, but partially wrong. Because you just told about the poverty in the world and how authoritarian governments are keeping people poor, but also religion. Because government and religion have a pact that I take the wealth from the people and you keep them calm, promising them a good life in the afterlife, which we don't have any evidence of that whatsoever. And if people knew that there's nothing out there or afterlife, they will say, like, to the hell with this, and they will go to revolution. And you say about poverty, people, countries that are poor, but you're not explaining why or how. You're not explaining that Africa has been underdeveloped because Europeans took the resources until today.
Okay,
So
fair
how
enough.
come you don't have an
Yes,
opinion?
Yes.
You don't explain.
Okay, I'll let her finish. I'm gonna end this because she's telling me what she wants to tell me. She didn't hear what Ryan said. Okay, but that's okay. That's okay. I want to end this. I need to show you some very important information about the fact that humans are evolving. Something is happening to us. It's good. And that you may not all see this necessarily through all the darkness that's there, but it's there. So let me just hold your thought, okay?
I just want to toss on one small thing about, like, that quote.
Okay, finish on this quote. Okay, go ahead.
Like, I wanted to add in there that, like, I think that's a good line, but I think one piece that is missing is that some people, to a degree, especially at a certain point, as we get older, you know, our brain becomes less plastic and less malleable. And I think it comes to a point where a lot of people, like even some people at like younger age, like after your brain solidifies at like 7 years old, and you kind of have your belief system, and you don't want to change it as much as like you used to when you're a kid and stuff like that. Some people don't have the ability to kind of open their mind up to not also outsource their brain to a book anymore, because it's so ingrained in them to think just this way. So unless you make a real conscious commitment to changing that, it's not going to change, so.
By the way, I just want to point out that you may be wrong. We are learning in neuroscience today something called neuroplasticity. I highly
It could be developed, yeah, but
the human mind, even as you get older, is capable of growing. You see,
but that's not what I'm saying, though. I'm
well,
saying it is
you are
capable
kind
of
of saying that
I'm
we
saying it's
get-
capable of growing, and you can improve your neuroplasticity in your brain. But I'm saying that most people would rather stay in the rut than dig themselves out of the gutter. So because it's more comfortable, and from where they're sitting down in the trench, they're not able to see at the level view of the battlefield like you would be able to if you were someone who had a more objective or open mind, because you've trained yourself to have that open mind, right? You haven't trained yourself to say, I see it this way and it's going to be this way forever, right?
Fair enough. I'm not going to challenge that, but there's some good points in there in terms of particularly having that larger view. For all of you online right now, just please click on the Hans Rosling video. 200 countries, 200 years, 4 minutes. And please watch that. Unfortunately, Hans Rosling is no longer with us. He passed away not too long ago, but he is a very good scholarly researcher who has gathered a lot of data in his institute, the Rosling Institute, and he also did a television series for Channel 4 in England called The Joy of Statistics. You may know of him. I'd like you to see this because it is fascinating about what's been happening in human civilization in the last 200 years. And he has a lot of data. And I'm going to run this now for all of the students here. And then those of you who are watching online, please make sure you click. And I think we can now watch this. Here we go.
I teach global health, and just as important as the data itself is to show it in ways that everyone can enjoy and understand. I'm going to try to show you 200 years of world history with statistics. It will involve more than 100,000 numbers brought to life in real space in less than 4 minutes. So, here we go. First, an axis for health. Life expectancy from 25 years to 75 years. And down here, an axis for wealth, income per person, $400, $4,000, and $40,000. So down here is poor and sick, and up here is rich and healthy. Now, I'm going to show you the world 200 years ago, in 1810. Here come all the countries. Europe brown, Asia red, Middle East green, Africa south of Sahara blue, and the Americas yellow. And the size of the country bubbles show the size of the population. And in 1810, it was pretty crowded down there, wasn't it? All countries were sick and poor. Life expectancy were below 40 in all countries. And only the UK and the Netherlands were slightly better off, but not much. And now, I start the world. The Industrial Revolution makes countries in Europe and elsewhere move away from the rest. But the colonized countries in Asia and Africa, they are stuck down there. And eventually, the Western countries get healthier and healthier. And now, we slow down to show the impact of the First World War and the Spanish flu epidemic. What a catastrophe. And now I speed up through the 1920s and the 1930s. And in spite of the Great Depression, Western countries forged on towards greater wealth and health. Japan and some others try to follow, but most countries stay down here. Now, after the tragedies of the Second World War, we stop a bit to look at the world in 1948. 1948 was a great year. The war was over, Sweden topped the medal table at the Winter Olympics, and I was born. But the differences between the countries of the world was wider than ever. The United States was in the front, Japan was catching up. Brazil was way behind, Iran was getting a little richer from oil, but still had short lives. And the Asian giants, China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia, they were still poor and sick down here. But look what is about to happen. Here we go again. In my lifetime, former colonies gained independence, and then finally they started to get healthier and healthier and healthier. And in the 1970s, then countries in Asia, Latin America started to catch up with the Western countries. They became the emerging economies. Some in Africa followed. Some Africans were stuck in civil war and others hit by HIV. And now we can see the world today in the most up-to-date statistics. Most people today live in the middle, but there are huge differences at the same time between the best of countries and the worst of countries. And there are also huge inequalities within countries. These bubbles show country averages, but I can split them. Take China, I can split it into provinces. There goes Shanghai. It has the same wealth and health as Italy today. And there is the poor inland province Guizhou. It is like Pakistan. And if I split it further, the rural parts are like Ghana in Africa. And yet, despite the enormous disparities today, we have seen 200 years of remarkable progress. That huge historical gap between the West and the rest is now closing. We have become an entirely new converging world. And I see a clear trend into the future with aid, trade, green technology, and peace. It's fully possible that everyone can make it to the healthy, wealthy corner. Well, what you just see in the last few minutes is a story of 200 countries shown over 200 years and beyond. It involves plotting of 120,000 numbers. Neat, huh? To find out more about the joy of science, visit the Open University's Open Learn website.
Let's have a little chat about this, and then let's go to the final reflection, and then we're going to deal with Ryan's question, and then we're going to conclude, okay? Sure.
How does he make that comparison, like in terms of wealth? Because if you know the inflation has changed what we consider wealthy a lot. You know, back in the day, you could buy a car with, I don't know, I'm talking about Henry Ford. You could buy a new car for $2,000, $1,000. I don't know how much a Model T costed, but I don't know how he made the comparison, because all the scale of money of what we consider wealth has changed like significantly. So I don't know. I'm not criticizing the video, so I'm just asking you, how did he make the comparison?
Excellent question. I would suggest to you that you could look into that, and possibly even that might be the topic for your final assignment, which is I would like to spend some time explaining this, but I don't have the information. So the short answer is I don't know.
I can go.
So good question, but let me leave this here now, okay? Good question.
So I sent you the mail, and it was from 9 to
Okay, hold on. Yes, I'm looking at the live chat. Yeah, and Yasmin has a good point that I want to review in this as well.
You know the buttons?
the buttons.
Okay. There's a name up top.
Okay, can you
And
mute? Maite, can you mute?
name up top. You press that and you'll lock the door.
Okay.
I'll mute, yeah, I'll just mute. I've never done this before, but Okay, for the moment, I'm going to have to do that, okay? Now, first, let's address what you just saw, because there's something really important going on there. Then, I have to make sure that we cover your sixth reflection a little bit, that everything is posted for you anyways, because we're running out of time. And then we're going to end with Ryan's global leader answer, okay? And there's Yasmin's long and probably thoughtful comment in the live chat about religion that we need to address. Everybody is thinking, and I love this. And we're all using different media. That's what this classroom is supposed to be, a multimedia, interactive, brainstorm, fest. And I'm the DJ here of, knowledge. DJ Lon, if I'm running this thing. So take a look at what I wrote. For all that we know, what have we learned? So as you watch that video, what have we learned? Something, what's happening in the last 200 years that seems to be good? Richie? Oh, you've got it. Great. You've got the mic. Go ahead.
I would say for the last 100 years, in the 20th century, there's been a dramatic increase in education and democracy around the world, which has led to an increase in population as well. Although income is still a challenge for different regions from that video.
Oh, she can? Okay. Yeah, all right. Go. Sorry, Rich. I just want to unmute Maite, make sure. Okay. Maite, I've had to mute you because there was background noise, and I can't.
Sorry, it's all right. It's all right.
Okay, good. Let Richie finish, okay? Thanks. Excellent. Go ahead, Richie. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just saying, in the 20th century, there's been dramatic changes in freedom from humanity and well as freedom for democracy and education, yeah, which has led to an increase in population all over the world. Some more than others, of course, but income is still a challenge for different regions. I know this well because my home country, Kenya, still has although it's developing very quickly, still has a income disparity issue.
Yes, yes. But nonetheless, here's Richie Awiti, not in Nairobi, but in Oshawa.
Yes.
Somehow you were able to travel here, get the money, and not only that, but sounds to me like Richie Awiti, if I pronounce it correctly, is a pretty educated person. Literacy growing around the world.
Sure.
Thank you, Rich. Okay. Anything else you'd like to say about what you just saw? I'm trying to provide you with some balance at the end of this semester to make sure you understand, had you seen what took place in the 20th century with our weapons of mass destruction and our continuing conflicts that are still now playing out savagely in the Holy Land and in Ukraine and in other parts of the world, you might be led to believe that our future is dark and grim. Well, I'd ask you to just, as Ryan has said, I think quite wisely, get the big view. Pull back. That's what I'm trying to help you to do. Look at the whole planet, the whole adventure, that big story of converged human civilization. And then you start to see something fun, but it's slow. It's the slow sunrise that Alfred North Whitehead told us about. It's the world dreaming of things to come and then in due season arouses itself to their realization. We have aroused ourselves to the realization that we are our own prophets and kings in our own minds. We want to be free, and we will be. And that doesn't disrespect religion. It just means that every single human being now is important. And that creates a very complicated world to live in. But we'll solve it as long as we address it. Okay, let's go to what Yasmin said about religion, and then we're going to make sure we stop in with the assignment sheet, and then Ryan's global leader, and then we're going to be done. Great. Yasmin, would you please read that out loud for us? Oh, she's not? Okay. So Yasmin has left us with some insight, and we're going to carry the torch for a while. Yasmin said, I think religions create a foundation for how to go about life in order to live in harmony. We tend to skew written word to fit what we want, confirmation bias. I wouldn't consider those who abuse the words of God for their own justifications for their actions. Although if we look deeply, all religions seem to have more similarities opposed to differences in the words that they speak. Anyways, that's my 5 cents. I think religions are extremely valuable for ourselves. If we follow the word as it's supposed to be, we would be living in harmony. But we walk amongst evil, and evil is influential because it's easy. Anyway, thank you, Lon. I'm sure you will read this after the video, but I thoroughly enjoyed these Friday lectures as they were extremely insightful. I have to go to work. We all do. Take care, and thanks everyone for enlightening me with new ideas and perspectives. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Yasmin, for taking the time to write that and to demonstrate that you are truly a human who understands the bond we all share. We are all together and connected, even if we sometimes don't look that way. So maybe we have learned some things. And before we go to Ryan, and I guess Ariana seems to want to say, I'd like to take you back, all the way back to the beginning of the semester, and try to remind you that there was an ice age. And about 200,000 years ago, 150,000 years, 140,000, ice sheets, sometimes 1.5 miles thick, covered the Americas, all the way down Canada, United States, nearing the equator. There were big, cold, forbidding, hostile environments. And we were already human at that point. We already had our brain size. We already had our anatomy. And somehow we got through that. It's said that we almost became extinct, that the human line that had grown out of other primate lines almost was extinguished by that terrible, cold, and ice and difficult environment. But because we had our hands, because we had our brains, and we were moving already, we were starting to come out of Africa and spread into the world, we figured out how to deal with the cold. And then it melted. Not because of us. Now things melt because of us. But in that time, we did kill off a lot of big animals. It's called the megafaunal extinction, and you know about that. We talked about that. Why am I telling you this now? To simply remind you that in each and every one of us, there is an ability with our intelligence and our resilience and our determination, our imagination, our courage, and our perseverance, the qualities that so define us as human beings, to overcome a lot. I'm not saying that the world is a pretty place right now. And Maite has made some very good points about how corrupt and dark and violent and mean and messed up the world is. But I hope at the end of this course, I can at least present to you some data and some ideas to remind you that we are capable of a lot. Okay, we need to deal with Ryan's question and Ariana, and then we're going to conclude. I will make sure I touch on the final reflection. If not, remind me. If we don't have time, just email me and I will help you. The most important thing is you understand what we've discussed today. So, Ariana, anything? You're good? Okay. David? Anything you want to add at this point? Okay. Richie, right? Oh, yeah, okay. Good.
I just wanted to say a phrase, and I think that we should abandon our preconceptions. I don't like the expression having an open mind, because we marry to the idea of being free thinkers, and we limit ourselves based on that idea. But I think we should be ready to leave our preconceptions behind if we truly want to achieve what you would like to ideally call a free mind. That's all I want to say.
Fair enough. Thank you. Yeah, great. Okay. I will say one small thing about the sixth reflection, then I will finish with global leader, okay? Next week, Friday, December the 15th, you have your final reflection that's due. And if I need to write this on the board for you, please let me know. It just means time. I have to walk over there. But would you, Ariana? Yeah, go ahead. Just make sure. I want to make could you write down reflection 6? Thanks a lot. Okay, so for those of you, you can see Ariana. Let her put that on the board. Okay. I'll come back here. Great. Reflection 6 is due Friday, December the 15th. It's been posted for some time on DC Connect, but a lot of students do email me and say, I haven't seen the assignment. I don't know what you're talking about. So I want to make sure.
One question is that I think is this one or next week?
Sorry, go ahead, Maite.
Is this last class or next week we still have a class?
We have a class next week, but that's something I also want to address, okay? That. So, good, thanks, Maite, good question. So Friday, December the 15th, 11:59 p.m., like all the reflections, that's the deadline. It should be in the Dropbox, but you have a 10% bonus opportunity. If you submit it to the Dropbox on Thursday, December the 14th, or earlier, 11:59 p.m. on Thursday, before it hits midnight on Friday, you get 10% bonus. Meaning, not that if you're to receive 80%, you get 90%. That's not the 10% I mean. It means if your mark was 44 out of 50, then it will be now 49 out of 50. Sorry, 44. Now it'll be 4.4%. So 4.4 marks. I would add to that. So let me do this, make it easy. If it's 40 out of 50, it would be 44 out of 50. If it was originally 44 out of 50, it will become 49 out of 50. And then I just might, if I think that student was making a little effort, and I know it's going to mean a lot, I might just dip in that 50 right there, because that student was really serious, and they'll get the 50. But that's my call. That's totally up to me. I'm going to be the God King, at that point. Okay, and I'm going to look at it and go, this student's sitting at 48 out of 50 right now with the 10%. And yeah, I see all of their reflections. They got them in. What's that? What's that? Off with his head. Never off with his head, Ryan. I'm just not a violent person that way, but we'll leave it to King John. But yeah, the 10% means 10 out of the mark. So it's 30 out of 50. It becomes 33 out of 50. 10% of 30 is 3, right? Got it? Okay. Good. This is worth 30%. And if you read the assignment sheet, you will see you have many options. I want you to simply know you can do this. Get a microphone, okay, so they can hear you. You can do this as a paper, you can do it as a video, and next week, Maite, you could come in here if you wanted to and do it as a presentation for everybody. Yes, 8 to 10 minutes. If you read the sheet, you can do a presentation for 8 to 10 minutes. That you have stuff going up there, I can help you with it. Gets recorded. Yeah,
Okay.
but you don't want to be doing off the top of your head. In other words, you don't want to come in and say, well, Lon said I can do this verbal for 8 to 10 minutes. So, it comes Friday, February the 15th. You come to class. Lon, I'm ready for my assignment. You walk up here and you talk for 8 to 10 minutes. You don't want to do that because you'll probably go on and on and on. You won't be dealing with all the things I want you to deal with. And it'll be a bit of a dog's breakfast, if you know what I mean. And the mark won't be so good. So I would recommend that you write it out in advance, or you know what you're going to say, and maybe do a PowerPoint or a Prezi. Maybe you want to do more, something like I do with different media, but you don't have to. Don't give yourself too much, Ryan. And my recommendation to you would be work on the content, because you've got some good ideas. Don't get too distracted with the tech. And I speak from experience. I've spent years here trying to make this classroom work. And the amount of technology I've had to do, it just drives me nuts. And there's a lot of content I never get to deal with because I'm worried about the tech. Yeah, Ariana?
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
So if we submit it on the 15th, do we lose 10%?
No.
Okay. Just as a
You
bonus.
don't get the 10% bonus.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And then-
if you press submit at 11:58 p.m. on Thursday the 14th, you get the 10%. Or if it's 11:59 p.m. on Thursday December 14th and it comes in, you get the 10%. But as soon as it hits midnight, Friday December 15th, you don't get the 10%. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes? Good.
Then my second question is, if I wanted to write like a paper reflection,
Yes.
what would be the page or like word count?
1,400 to 1,500. Yeah. That's why I want to show you briefly the assignment sheet quickly. Okay, so Ryan, I'll get to the global leader. This is more important because you're asking a really important question. Okay, that makes me. Yes.
To still get the like 10%, but you wanted to do your like presentation like in front of the class, how would that work? Would you just like submit your PowerPoint at like 58?
You wouldn't be able to get that 10%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a good, I have to think because, yeah, not this semester, Ryan. You wouldn't get the
So I guess mine's gonna be written then.
Yeah, but let me think of it's a good question because actually you've just pointed out a little problem, which is some students may want to do the presentation and they want the 10%. I'm going to have to think about that. Yeah, that's part of it, but don't worry about my problems. I've got to turn around 202 final grades by the following Tuesday, but that's not your worry. But I think it's a good question. Yeah. Sure. I'll think about this. I don't like to do the mark right then and there for something on which 30% is riding. I want to think about it on the bus on the way home. Yeah, I come from Toronto. The bus and the subway. 1.5 hours to get here. It's all productive time with technology and computers and phones. Okay. It's almost 1:45. I want to let you go. I'm going to say this for the sake of time. You must read the assignment sheet that's posted. So I'm going to show you where it is. I'm not going to go through it. It is your responsibility to read it. And I'm just going to show you that all you need to do is go to DC Connect, okay, and you go to the announcements page, and you scroll down, and there it all is for you. There's the assignment sheet. And here's what you will see. And there it is all laid out for you. The criteria, everything in detail, including the marking scheme. And that, I think, is something you really want to think about, that marking scheme. See, out of 50 now. It's not out of 10 or out of 5. Please read that as fast as you can after class. Email me if you have any questions, okay? But I think it would be better if you spend the time going through this to familiarize yourself with it. In a Word, you can do a paper, 1,400 to 1,500 words with a minimum of 3 independent sources cited. You can do a 4 to 5 minute video. You can do a presentation. The examples that are given in that announcement here, those are not, students have written to me and said, oh, do you want me to do, like, I want to do my final assignment on optimism and grit. Like, are those the topics? No. Those are examples of student work that's been done in previous semesters to show you the bar, the quality of work that students are doing, whether they wrote it, whether they did a video or they did a presentation. That's all it is. They're examples of good work. Well, it's a good question. So let me make sure I understand. Like, for example, can you give me, are you thinking you'd like to do the same topic as somebody did? That's good. Okay, but then, yes, you can. You can, good of Jeet. But remember, here's a critical thing that integration of course material is a very, you see how so if you're writing, if you take that topic, which is excellent, you need to be referring to the course material to have examples so that we understand the historical significance of your topic. So if you're going to write about mental health and evolution, then we need to know something about how mental health was viewed in history. And maybe how our attitudes towards mental health have evolved or changed over time. And then I start to see that you are engaging with the idea of evolution, the great force in the human story. So you're integrating the ideas from the course into what you write. Does that make sense? Are you sure you understand? Okay, because it's important you get this. Can I leave Global Leader till next week just to make it, because it's, or we can talk offline, okay? I want to make sure everybody, yeah. Here it is. Pick one topic. I'll put this really big, okay? So. Well, hold on. Pick one topic. It might be a question that interests you. It might be a problem. Oh, I just noticed a typo for the first time. Look, it might a problem. Writing is endless. Rewriting is endless. You have to be a bit of a obsessive perfectionist to always be, look, I'm missing a verb. It might be a problem. It might be a topic you reflected on in your reflections this semester. Perhaps there is an important person you would like to concentrate on, an event or place, a seminal moment in history. Seminal means like a important. I mean, you could write about Alexander the Great if you wanted to, but now, in a medium of your choice, tell us about your topic. Why have you chosen it? Why is it interesting and compelling? How does it have enduring relevance to humanity? In your reflections 1 to 5, you were generally talking about why something mattered to you. Now you're telling us why it matters to everybody. But you're still reflecting. You're still using the same voice. But the difference is you're looking outward now and you're saying, in this reflection, for example, you could say this in your opening paragraph, but this is just thinking off the top of my head, Ryan, to help you understand what you could do. But you can play with this. But always in an opening paragraph, you want to give us the reason why we need to be reading this. I don't want you to write a boring, technical, school-taught academic paper. I want you to write well, which means that you have to make me care. Good writing is all of those things you've been taught in school, but now we add something else, which is you actually have to write in a nice, simple way where people are interested in what you're writing about. You can't assume that they're interested. So in that opening paragraph, you have to explain to your reader, here's why I'm about to tell you about Alexander the Great, or the history of Kenya, for example, or the Prince Siddhartha Gautama or Ashoka. And if you were picking, I am going to tell you in this reflection, I'm going to reflect on the idea of why he or she is so important to all of humanity, and why what this person achieved or didn't achieve or tried to achieve will have enduring relevance for all of us in the many years to come. Enduring relevance to humanity is really important. And you have to tell us in that opening paragraph that you're going to be showing us with examples why this matters. So you could say, well, Alexander the Great, everybody knows he's important. Well, I'm going to reflect on his importance and give you some new information that's really going to help you to understand something else about Alexander that I think we all need to know. And I have the research, and I'm going to show you this. And I'm going to tell you something about how I feel about him, too. And at the end of this, I'm going to wrap this up with the final paragraph. It's just going to be like, great paragraph where you're going to hear my final words. And I'm going to leave you with a very important thought, because that's what your ending should always be. It's not a summary of everything you've told us. It should be a philosophical question. Your biggest, most important statement comes at the end, and you leave us with your final words. Your final words and your final paragraph are so important. It's something you're going to say to us, and all of what you've told us in the preceding paragraphs was the preparation for that thought. Does this make sense? I got to let you go. It's 5 minutes past, okay? And we can talk after. But anyways, I think we should conclude. And if there's anything you need, I'm here, okay? So I'm going to end the live stream right now. And bring this back here. And here we are. I want to get the live chat. Good. I don't want to lose. I lost it. Okay. Don't. Where did you just go? export as PDF. Okay. Good, I've got that. We want to stop the live stream.